Hello, everyone, and welcome along to the F1 show with me and Charlie Tolhurst alongside me, as always. Charlie, how's your week been? First of all, to start
Been
off
good,
with.
thanks, Jack. Been watching some F1 today, some Mexican Grand Prix races, believe it or not, actually.
Yep, and believe it or not, the press conference is taking place around about right now, actually, because of the time difference in America, in Mexico, sorry. We were in America 2 weeks ago, Charlie, and the championship looks to favour Max Verstappen going into this race. But last week, I was doing research, and according to the statistics, every driver on average has one mechanical failure a year. Lewis already had that, of course, in second practice at Zandvoort. So if statistics prove correct, Charlie, Verstappen will be getting a mechanical failure and a DNF before the end of the season.
It's going to be interesting. We've refused to rule out whether Verstappen will have a DNF or not, but it remains to be said. And I tell you what, Jack, these next 5 races are the most critical of the season, especially for Max Verstappen of Red Bull and Lewis Hamilton. An engine failure can change it all up completely.
I mean, really, Charlie, this Mexican Grand Prix is a must-win race for Lewis Hamilton.
It is going to be. And there's another thing as well. To be honest with you, cars running Renault engines a couple of years ago had problems because they kept failing. So hopefully the Honda engine will be safer this time round.
Well, and the problem is with this circuit, Charlie, it's the highest altitude circuit we go to. And it is a very high altitude, Mexico City. And it does cause problems getting the cars to stay cool because obviously there isn't as much air up there to keep the cars cool.
There isn't. And there was a couple of years ago, obviously, I think 2018 or 19, Brendan Hartley had a failure. That was, I think, running a Honda engine. I think that was a Honda, actually, engine he was running, or Renault,
Yeah,
one of the
they were
two.
running Honda that year.
So, yeah, they were kind of like, oh, is Verstappen's car going to break down? Thankfully, he carried on. But I think Daniel Ricciardo had an engine issue that day as well. So it's definitely, it was taking the brunt of a lot of the teams there.
I mean, if you were worried about anyone having an engine failure this weekend, you would be worried about Red Bull because that Honda engine does need cooling. The Mercedes engine does work better in the hotter conditions.
It does, and I think Mercedes will get their car into the operating window quite well on some of these higher altitude tracks as well. So it looks like they're going to cope well this weekend. It is difficult though because this track, Jack, is a circuit Max Verstappen has won multiple times on as well.
But obviously, Lewis Hamilton has won multiple times there as well. I think, Charlie, at this moment in time, Mercedes have the quicker car. I genuinely do think that, and I genuinely think another lap at Austin, Lewis would have won that race.
Yeah, I mean Verstappen's tyres were dead at the end of that race. I think he was lucky to even win it. But going to this track though, the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one. Will Verstappen win? Will Hamilton win? We don't know. I think we'll find out more on Sunday.
And who will get that run towards turn one? In pretty much, Charlie, every other round, you would say pole position has the advantage, except Mexico, because you could get that slipstream, and you could, if you get that slipstream, then you're in a very good position to make an overtake at turn one, and the defending driver is pretty much helpless. So
Yeah,
potentially, Charlie, whoever starts second this weekend has the advantage.
I think if you start in the top 4, you could have a chance. I mean, look at Hamilton a couple of years ago, 2018, I think, or 2017, got an absolute rocket ship of a start into the first corner. So I think it's anyone's game. I think on this track, the clean side of the grid is going to be the better starting position for the drivers.
And obviously, it's a track that is not used much at all.
No, it isn't. It's mainly a baseball stadium. The Foro Sol was built in the middle of it. It has hosted Race of Champions before, so there has been some asphalt laid down there a little bit.
But obviously, that asphalt is taken up after. It's a temporary service, isn't it? It's taken up after every F1 event. F1, they put it down. F1 comes along, and then F1 finishes, and it goes back to a baseball stadium again.
Yeah, I mean, Race of Champions was a one-off event there. I think I'm glad that they done Race of Champions in Mexico because I think they needed to boost the overall motorsport amphitheatre there. And I think the Foro Sol was a good choice for it as well.
But obviously, the part of the track that is fixed is used quite a few times a year. They've had Mexican NASCAR there in the past. I think even IndyCar went there one year. So it does get used. The fixed part of the circuit, it's just those few corners where it's a temporary asphalt that doesn't get used. But Formula E do also use a different layout in that Faro Sols section as well.
Yes, Formula E go there as well. I think they didn't go there last year. They went to Puebla because of the coronavirus. But yeah, I mean, Formula E do use that circuit. I believe it will be back on the Formula E calendar as far as I know, next year.
It is already on the provisional Formula E calendar next year for the 12th of February as well. And the Mexican E-Prix always provides drama. But Charlie, majority of the people in the Faro Sol will be supporting one very special Mexican, Checo Perez. He done a drive through Mexico City yesterday, and I have to say, Charlie, it looked rather emotional for Sergio.
It has, Jack, and this is one of the biggest races for him of the season. He needs to do well this weekend because he's in a competitive car. He's in a Red Bull. He's not in a Racing Point now. He's in a Red Bull. He will be wanting to impress his fans this weekend.
Could you imagine, Charlie, if Sergio Perez got on the podium or won the Mexican Grand Prix? That Faro Sol would be bouncing.
It would be amazing. I hope I've got high hopes for him this weekend. I really hope he does well. I really hope that he can put on a show for the fans this weekend.
And lots of them as well. It will be a full house in Mexico. We're kind of getting used to going back to these full houses now, aren't we? And I have to say, I quite like it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love this. I don't know how many fans are going to be in Mexico. I've got a good 100,000 maybe, I reckon.
And then obviously a week after, next week we head straight to Interlagos. That will also be a full house as well, or near enough a full house.
Yeah, that will be as well. And it's obviously 25 years ago. Well, it's actually 25 years ago this year since we lost Senna. So I think that race will be quite emotional for many people.
Yep, it sure will be. And obviously, Senna was the greatest, one of the greatest Brazilian F1 drivers to win the World Championship. But going on to thinking about later in the season, for Max Verstappen now, Charlie, does he need to just get his head in, get his racing head in, and think about maybe let's not go for the silly moves now and let's play the championship game?
I think, Jack, Max Verstappen is known for his overtaking credentials, should I say.
This could be, Charlie, where he could lose the World Championship.
I think when I've watched some videos of Verstappen making moves that have been clumsy and that have been last of the late breakers, he has got a reputation of being a very aggressive driver, but I think he's got to play it safe. I mean, if he it'd be nice to see him go for a move, but he's got to be careful. He can't go for a move, and then if the gap's there and the driver closes the door, he's just got to back out of it.
I mean, he's got in terms of his championship, he's got to keep Lewis behind him again, because if Lewis wins this race, it's game on in the championship for the final 4 races.
The worst thing he could do this weekend is to have another collision with Hamilton, let alone a couple of years ago when those two got close.
You say that, but would a collision with Hamilton wouldn't be too bad because he's not actually lost any points.
It wouldn't be bad unless Hamilton finishes in a good position at the end of the race. That's the other question.
And as Toto Wolff has made a very bold statement that it looks like this championship is going to go down to the wire at Abu Dhabi. Toto Wolff reckons we might see another Ayrton Senna move on Alain Prost. I tell you what, Charlie, I think every F1 fan would have their hands would absolutely love it if that happened again.
It'd be one that I think many fans would be quite shocked about if that was to happen again. And as Senna, a 1989 daring pass for Ayrton Senna ended up all going wrong. That's what Max Verstappen needs to avoid in these last 5 races.
One of the drivers, Charlie, one of Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen is going to be desperate at Abu Dhabi and is going to be behind and is going to need to get their elbows out and maybe take a risk.
It's going to be interesting. I think this weekend, I don't think many of the drivers will take risk unless you're Danny Fiat from a couple of years ago and you try a move that didn't work.
I think Lewis Hamilton now, Charlie, has got to be angry, aggressive Lewis Hamilton, and he's got to make the overtakes.
He's probably going to have to go for them this weekend. It's going to be interesting. But, I mean, this track, Jack, the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, is one that will test most F1 cars.
I mean, you can overtake on it. You know, it's got a 1 kilometre long start-finish straight, you know. The longest straight on the F1 calendar. You can overtake at turn 1 and up to the farthest sole if you wish to as well.
Yeah, that will be where the overtaking will happen. I think turn 4 as well will see some action. It will be very tight on the first lap as well. That's what we want to watch in Mexico. First laps here can be quite eventful.
There's always collision to that chicane, isn't it? That triple chicane.
Yeah, I think, when was this? A couple of years ago, Fernando Alonso got debris. There was also a collision a few years ago when the Circuit Fest opened. Yeah, I can't remember many off the top of my head, but I remember 2018 as well.
Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton collided there.
Oh, yes, 2017. Yes, I remember that one because Hamilton had a puncture and fell right down the field.
Yeah, but he didn't get a puncture from Vettel though, did he? They did collide, but he actually got the puncture from contact with the Red Bull.
Yeah, Verstappen did clip him, but luckily Max avoided it all. Luckily he did get a puncture, but yeah, he drove on and just dominated the race in the end.
Yeah, and that was obviously when Lewis took his 4th world title as well.
Yeah, that was an emotional one, I thought, for Hamilton, because he equaled Sebastian Vettel, he equaled Alain Prost, he equaled many drivers.
Little did we know at that point, 5 years later or 4 years later, we'd be back with a potential 8th world title on the brim.
Yeah, but I think Lewis Hamilton, if he wins his 8th, he'll be the most successful driver ever in the sport.
How much, Charlie? How much do you want Lewis to get the 8th?
I'm going to say 50-50.
The way I am looking at it is, whatever happens, whether Verstappen wins it or Lewis wins it, it will be history. If Max wins it, he becomes the youngest ever Formula 1 world champion. If Lewis wins it, he becomes the greatest F1 driver of all time in terms of trophies and success.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big year for both drivers. I mean, I've got a suspicion this is going to go right down to the wire, I reckon.
Oh, it 100%. It's going down to that final lap in Abu Dhabi. And as F1 tweeted, it is the final showdown.
Yeah, we start this weekend in Mexico for the final showdown. It's going to be big.
It is. We've got 5 races, including, Charlie, on the brand new Jeddah Street Circuit.
Yes, I saw a video actually of this, Jack. I have to say it looks interesting. It's going to be one that I think might be controversial for some people, but I think it looks like an interesting track. It's very fast.
It looks, you would say Brazil and would be a Red Bull track, and then you would say the Sao and Jeddah are Mercedes because of the long straights, very fast corners. And Abu Dhabi, it's kind of both, isn't it? You know, with the new bank corners, the Red Bull works well on the bank corners. The Mercedes works really well on those long straights. So Abu Dhabi, you couldn't really predict it. And again, with Mexico, long straights, you can't really say who's going to have the better package. But Brazil, it's clear cut. I think Red Bull will be quicker that weekend. The Sao, Jeddah, I think Mercedes.
Yeah, I think as well, Jeddah is going to be difficult to pass on. But looking at the development I've got, there is going to be a bank corner. I think turn 13 when they head back in the other direction. I think that will be a corner where there'll be some drivers trying to go for moves.
Well, it's going to be banked by 12%. So it's not massively banked, but it's banked enough to cause some problems. But the main overtaking point on the Jeddah circuit will be turn 1.
Yeah, that will be the one where most drivers will go for it. I mean, the final corner will be a DRS. It's going to be 3 DRS zones on this track as well, but what I'm reading up. So it's going to be interesting
I
to
think
see
it's
what
got
they're doing.
potential for overtaking, a lot of it as well. I genuinely do think it's going to be a Baku at night.
It could be. I mean, the thing is, Jack, with this circuit, unlike, like, say, Brazil or other tracks, if you get it wrong here, you could have a big accident. And the barrier is literally millimeters away from you.
Millimeters. Charlie Tolhurst has said they're millimeters away. But interestingly, what we've been hearing this week is that Michael Massey has been testing out the track, and it has passed. It has now got its Grade 1 license, so we are good to go. Obviously, Miami, that's still yet to get its Grade 1 license. That's because that track is not even constructed yet. That's why it hasn't got its Grade 1 license. So it's going to be a very quick turnaround for those Miami officials.
Yeah, I think Miami will get it. I think it's. I'm confident for Miami. I think they'll be able to pull it off.
Well, they only started constructing the Jeddah track, what was it, a few months ago? And they've nearly completed it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Jeddah's the penultimate race of the season, I think. So they've got time to get it done.
We've got a double header to finish the season.
Yeah. So it's around a month's time we'll be going to Jeddah, so I can't wait for it. I hope it provides some decent racing.
Well, it's exactly a month's time, Charlie. Actually, it's the 2nd to the 4th of December, so it's exactly a month's time. You got that absolutely spot on.
Wow, interesting. Correct for once. So we're going to Jeddah in a month's time. I can't wait. I can't wait for this. It's going to be interesting.
And then we go to Abu Dhabi a week later. We don't get much of a break in these. It's what is it? 5 races in 6 weeks. It is, because we only get it must be 5 races in 7 because we get a week off. Yeah, 5 races in 7 weeks because we get 2 weeks off. It's a mental challenge for the drivers, Charlie. It's a physical challenge for the drivers, but the mechanics as well.
It is. This is the last triple header of the year. I think we're going to be in for a busy period with the team. Certainly moving parts across is going to be a big challenge as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And next year, it's going to be an even bigger challenge for the mechanics. Obviously spending so much time away from home, 23 weeks away from home. That is almost half of the year away from their families.
Yeah, Jack, it's going to be. I think next season's going to be the biggest season for the teams.
Rotation. I've been asked about this. The thing is, with the pit stop crew, you can rotate the catering staff, but with the main engineers and the pit stop crew and the mechanics, you can't really rotate them.
No, I think they're going to have to look at rotating a few people in the paddock, I reckon, or especially in that pit crew, because a lot of them are practicing God knows how many days.
So the thing is, Charlie, as Toto Wolff said, you can't rotate the pit crew because every mechanic has to know every single detail of the car.
Yeah.
And the drivers get to bond with their mechanics. It is just easier if you have the same mechanics at every weekend.
Yeah.
It's not practical for their family life, but it is easier.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, I thought we're over 20 races next year, if confirmed. It's going to be
23.
23 races. That is probably a record for F1 if it's going to happen. It's going to be even a very physical challenge, I think, for everyone.
And obviously we'll be returning to Japan. We're going to Miami. It all looks to be a very fascinating season. We've got new cars, new tyres, new tracks. Imola's coming back. It's going to be great to see Imola with the new generation of F1 cars. It's going to be great to see the new generation of F1 cars tackling Monza, Spa, and Eau Rouge especially, Charlie. They're going to be flying through there with all that downforce.
I think Eau Rouge will be a lot easier in the new cars if they've got more downforce, because they'll be able to grip to the road.
They haven't got more downforce. They've actually got less, but they will. The teams always gain about 50% of that downforce back through aerodynamics.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think it'll be great to see the new cars next year. I mean, hopefully they'll be good to drive. That's the main thing.
So obviously it's going to be harder to go through Eau Rouge. More crashes, more spins, and hopefully not any serious accidents.
No,
But
we
of
don't want
course,
that.
of course, these new F1 cars have been put through the paces, and I've heard that they have passed the crash structure safety test from the FIA. So if anything serious does happen, Charlie, the drivers are protected extremely well.
Yeah, I mean, Hamilton's Monza accident was an example of the halo coming into its own.
And it is going to be a newly adapted halo, so it will dip down at the front now as part of the new design on the new car. I believe that is to give more head protection device.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think Formula One will have to adapt with having a new halo on board.
Yeah. It's going to be very, very interesting. Obviously, the first time they will take to track will be Bahrain. Bahrain, the Sakir International Circuit, will get the pleasure of hosting the first ever F1 race under the new generation of cars. And what a circuit it is to be able to host that as well, Charlie.
Yeah, Bahrain's a classic. I love the track. And yeah, oh, there's a spider in my bedroom. Jesus,
there's a spider in your bedroom, Charlie.
Yeah, it's all right. God, I'm a celebrity on in a couple of weeks. I'm already gearing up for that. But yeah, I literally hope the new F1 cars will be great come next year in Bahrain.
I so hope it. The hype, I hope they live up to the hype. But that is it for the F1 show this week. Thank you for joining me once more, Charlie Tolhurst. And we'll be live for the Mexican Grand Prix on Sunday when Formula One returns.